Hey guys, nice sunny day today. I'm gonna go get the tree to surprise Sally, except one little thing. This morning when we were sitting having coffee, she says to me, "Oh, you know, one of the things I always enjoyed was getting a tree with you." Oh, alright, so much for the surprise. Now I have to take her with me. So anyway, that's what I'm gonna do now. So I'm waiting for her to come out. I gotta lock up and then we'll go. Bullseye, you gotta go in the garage. Okay guys, so we're back from getting the tree. This is known as a Fraser pine. So the needles on it are soft. They're not, you know, pricky or whatever. So I'm just gonna trim a little bit. Every year it's the same story. Gotta trim the thing here so that this doodad goes around there better. And maybe a branch or two. So I'm gonna do that. And I had gotten some good comments last year about some really good tree stands, but you know, hating to throw anything away, I took and you can see I brazed this. So I brazed this all the way around here, mounted it to this wooden cross thing, and it actually works pretty good for us to put this tree into it. And then I just put these great big lag screws through these holes and through this collar, and it ends up holding the tree just fine. The only thing is I should have probably painted it last year. I didn't, but Sally has this like some kind of skirt or curtain or whatever you call it that she puts around the tree, and it hides all that stuff. So I'm not going to worry about it this year either. Maybe next year. Maybe when I take it down I'll do it. We'll see. So anyway, I gotta start up the saw and trim this a little bit. Alright, so there she goes. That thing's definitely bolted in there pretty good. And you can adjust it a little bit according to the bolts for, you know, if it has to go side to side. Right now it's hard to judge it because it's sitting on the tailgate of the truck and the truck's on a little angle, but it's breezy and it's not blowing over, so it must be fairly straight. Now she'll be in there making room for the tree. I think I gotta move some furniture for her, so I guess I gotta go do that. This Fraser fir was, I think this is about 6'6" or something like that. It was $35 in case you're wondering. That was at a local place where Sally likes to go every year. They actually give you, you spin a wheel and you get a little gift. She loves that. So she does that. I brought another ornament home for the tree. Okay, so Sally's got the tree in here. I didn't open it up yet. It's got to be straightened a little bit. You can see it needs to go this way over here on the top, which I can do because those bottom angle that cross, you can just shim under one side, which is, I already have the stuff ready for that. So this is her starting to get ready for the tree, and that'll stay like that now for probably 2 days because she needs to do baking tomorrow. So anyway guys, it's looking good. We're feeling good about Christmas. It's been a long time since we've been just the two of us, and we're actually excited about it. Hey guys, I want to try and see if I can't get a update on the kiln every day, just for 2 minutes or a couple seconds of the video. You can see there it's, let's see, that's 80, so it's 70 degrees in there. It's 22 right now, the temperature. So I'm gonna, you know, let you guys know what the temps are outside and what it's like in the kiln. Now what we had today, and you can see it's probably around 4 o'clock, 3:30. The sun is setting over there already, but you can see there's a lot of clouds. It was cloudy today, although for, I don't know, maybe 6 hours we had sun. So in 6 hours of sun it took it all the way up to 70. Probably a little higher, it's probably starting to cool off already. Oh guys, Sally had me open the tree up because she wanted it to have the branches to spread out a little bit. Looks like it's a little open there. We'll have to turn it or something, but the smell, I wish you could smell this thing. Man, oh man, when you walk into this room, it's amazing. It smells so nice. Soon it'll be decorated. I'm glad Christmas is coming. Hey guys, just a little bit off the beaten path, but that's what my channel's about. I talk about anything, whatever happens to me during the day, whoever I talk to, normally I'll share that with you guys, because a lot of times my days are very interesting, to say the least, because I do meet a lot of people, even though I'm secluded up here, basically. The point that I'm getting at here is, I was watching videos recently about tractors, and I'm considering buying a piece of ground that has a lot of pine trees on it. And I was thinking about, I don't want to have to move my Ford backhoe there. And the thing I don't like about skidding with my Ford is that it doesn't pull very well, because it pulls the front end off the ground. It's not made for skidding. And to skid logs with a Ford backhoe that I have, you should actually drag them backwards, which is kind of tough. And not only that, but the windows, you know, you're in the woods, they'll get smashed more than they are now. The backhoe itself is in the way because it's so high and everything. So, you know, my first thing is to look at the old skidders and see if I can find an old skidder. Now, there's all kinds of skidders, there's all kinds of trucks out there, there's all kinds of stuff that you can find for sale. But one of the things that I was reading the comments about, you know, when it comes to tractors, I got to tell you, you know, I never had a John Deere in my life. I never liked John Deere, and it had nothing to do with farm tractors. What it is John Deere construction equipment, okay? I used them as demonstrators, you know, before we would buy a new one, and I just couldn't grasp John Deere, and I'm talking about construction equipment, the yellow stuff. So, you know, I never really grasped onto that. I've looked at some of their newer stuff, though, and they've really made strides since the 70s. I mean, back in the 70s, they made I did have one John Deere. I had a 350, or it was a 450 small John Deere. I think it was a 450 dozer. Very nice little dozer. Really liked that, because at the time it was about the smallest thing you could get that would do a lot of interior grading, like inside of a, you know, big warehouses where you build the building out of steel and the ground's, you know, all mucked up from rain, mud, and also from guys driving through it. So I really enjoyed that, having that one. But like the John Deere backhoe, I never really embraced that thing. I didn't like it. I didn't like their excavators. I more or less like Cat, I have to say. You know, not so much that I'm a Cat guy, but Cat has been good to me, and the equipment has always lasted. I've not had problems with it. I mean, I can't tell you how many hours we've gone with Cat, from from a brand new piece of equipment to 10,000 hours with minimum problem. But that's not what I'm here to talk about Cat. I'm not trying to plug them either. But what I am talking about is, you know, I hear now with the smaller tractors, like a farm tractor, something that can pull like a skidder, you see John Deere tractors, and I'm not looking at a full-size skidder. I'm wanting something smaller than that, because pine really isn't that heavy. But anyway, you know, you look at John Deere, they have these here, Mahindra, Massey Ferguson, you know, Kubota, you name it, they have it. And I swear, every single video I've watched, none of them really satisfy the need for information that I have to be able to get me to make a decision about something from YouTube or the internet. And I find that amazing, because it's hard to find a whole bunch of channels that'll say, yes, John Deere's the thing to buy. I mean, usually they're saying they're too pricey, or, you know, they're proprietary computer systems that no one has parts, or no one can fix, because they don't have to, or because they have to buy some kind of computer that's very expensive or whatever. So then you go down the line, you know, and every dealer, if a dealer's making a video, they make the video so that, you know, they have the shop to fix things, they can fix it. And then you watch the customer's review of a place, and they, you know, they talk about how they went to get things fixed, and it didn't happen. Sometimes I think to myself that maybe the customer's just beating the daylights out of this stuff because of having CAT and not having problems with it. But then again, you know, you start looking at all the other stuff that we buy, and we talked about this before, that, you know, it's basically not what it used to be. Just like that bevel gearbox, I am so surprised at how heavy that is on that Simplicity tractor. It's unbelievably heavy. So anyway, so I'm looking at these tractors, and I read this one comment, and I thought that this was worth addressing somewhere on the internet. But one, apparently a young guy, there were two people talking, and they said that, yeah, the best person to talk to about fixing a tractor, an old tractor, is an older guy. And the young guy apparently wrote an email, or wrote a comment saying that, you know, something like, to get off it, you know, who do you think you are? You couldn't fix a tractor if you had to go and do the computer part of it. And I'll tell you what, for myself, that's pretty much, you're on target. I mean, if I have fixed probably the most latest thing that I have worked on, as far as really torn down, is probably something in the 2000s. So, you know, not past 2010, prior to 2010. And this stuff is a lot harder to figure out, because it's not the mechanical things that we used to fix that seem to be the problem. It seems to be more like something that you need to be able to scan for or understand the software for. Hey, and I know that there's young guys out there who were plenty smart enough to take those scanners and do what they got to do. I don't have a doubt about that. But I think what they were trying to say is that, you know, when an old guy takes a farm tractor and, like, you rip the final drives out of a tractor or the final drives out of a dozer or something, there's a lot of parts there, okay, a lot of parts. And if in the past you've done that 3-4 times in your life, and not even a whole lot more than that, you don't have to be a full-fledged mechanic, you will remember a lot of what you went through to be able to fix that kind of thing. So I think that they, instead of the young guy thinking that, you know, they were putting them down, I think that they're trying to say that it would be easier to work with an old guy to find out how to do something with that, because a young guy may not know exactly what to do with that thing. Granted, mechanics today are taught how to work with mechanical things. It's just that there's a difference in some things than there are, you know, today with things. And a simple difference would be, like, I know that on all the Chevys I ever worked on as a kid, the bolt for the distributor was 9/16. Now, I don't know if they're 9/16. I mean, they look like metric. They don't even have distributors, half of them now. But, you know, as you work up through the years, things change. You know, the different type of exhaust system. We used to know, at one time we used to know every part number that Chevy would interchange with, you know, so that you could get cast iron ram head style manifolds, or the drop down manifolds, or, you know, what headers would work with what. And I think that that's what they were talking about. They, you know, they were talking that when you talk to an older guy about an older tractor, he can give you the ins and outs about it, and whether it's a good tractor to not only buy and have longevity, but will the tractor be able to be fixed by someone without, let's say, a machine shop? You know, can you actually get it torn apart? So I think that, you know, when it comes to working on the old iron, yes, I believe that an older guy would have more experience about tearing the iron down and letting you know whether it's going to be, you know, have longevity to it. But you cannot beat these young kids who sit down and think now, and not all of them. I gotta stop you there. But anyway, a lot of these young guys who are good at this, you know, they can take the computer, they can look at things, they understand things like that we didn't have to understand. Like, I watched a guy trying to troubleshoot something and was looking for a sine wave. You know, sine waves to me are something that a radio operator needs to worry about, not a mechanic. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth today. So, you know, my uncle used to have a saying, it's really hard to be stupid today because there's so many things not to know. And you know, the reverse of that is that these young guys coming out, not only do they have to know the mechanical end of it, but they have to really understand the electronic end of it. And I've known a couple of kids who have gone through electrical engineering, or not electronic engineering, okay, not electrical, but electronics, never made it. I think they got to the second year and they were toast. So, you know, for somebody to get through that whole thing, they've got to have something upstairs, you know, working for them to be able to make that happen. Even with something as, like civil engineering, I know that, you know, you start off with a class, there's 60 in a class, by the time 4 years is up, there's 3 people left. So there are some young guys out there we should not be taking, you know, this stuff from them and give them their due, because they do have to know a lot more than we did at the time. Now, the thing is we had a lot less stuff to work with. You know, you couldn't go, like you couldn't go to every store like you can now. I can buy line wrenches at Napa. You couldn't buy line wrenches like just anywhere at one time. You had to, you know, there was a time when they didn't sell them. They had line wrenches, but not everybody had them, you know, or other kinds of tools. I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. Line wrenches came to mind. But that's where these young guys have it better than we do, because they have access to the stuff. I mean, you can get on the internet and find anything you want, you know. So I just thought I would make a comment about that, because I saw an online comment, because there is a difference between an old mechanic and a new mechanic. The old guy has experience taking something apart and can tell you whether that thing is worth having. Because if you can fix it, it's worth having. If you can't fix it because it's such junk to begin with, then it's not worth having, so why even buy it? So in that type of thinking, it doesn't matter whether you're a young guy or an old guy, whoever's buying something should want it to last, whether you're young or old. So I think, guys, to you young guys, an older guy may know what will last better, you know, from the old equipment. And therefore, if you go to buy it, you'll know what's going to, you know, work out for you. But then again, you old guys, including myself, a young guy is going to know about the more modern stuff and what works better and what, you know, electronics handle things better. I don't know if you ever watched my video. I had a video up about a Dodge Durango that I was working on. That thing drove me insane. I was just changing parts in that because I had no clue what to do with the computer on that thing. And then all of a sudden, you know, I started putting 2 and 2 together, and I was reading about, I read the whole manual about the Dodge Durango. I think it was a 2000. I read the whole manual trying to find out where all these problems pointed to, and eventually it came to me that they were pointing at the computer. So the computer was replaced and it worked fine. So, I mean, there are a lot of things like that out there. So I guess rather than picking on the young guy, or the young guy saying you're too old for whatever, I think it would be better if we could get together and share this information. And that's one thing that I noticed that's online right now is this. I can go online and find all I need to find about rebuilding a Chevy engine. But I cannot go online and find everything I need to know, like even from somebody like Scotty Kilmer. I mean, I like Scotty Kilmer's channel, and I think he has a good thing going there. But what I'm saying is, even some of the newer cars that have computers and stuff in them, you never really seem to get solid answers on what the problem is, you know. And that's why people now, when they say to you, when you ask somebody, you know, what do you think's wrong with this? They don't have a clue, because there's so many different things that it could be. You know, when we were kids, if a car didn't start, it was either the battery, the starter, the points, the plugs, or the wires. Other than that, we could probably get it running. So, you know, things like that is what I think need to be looked at sometimes. But anyway, I just wanted to make a comment about these young guys. You know, I think the guy was offended at that, and I don't think he should have been. I think that we should have been understanding this back and forth, because when I was teaching, let me tell you, there were a lot of things that I was teaching a software that takes care of. How can I explain this to you? It would take care of the time that goes through a project. Microsoft Project is actually the name of one of them, and you can figure out from it how long it's going to take to do something. The problem with it is, even though there were young guys that were good at using the software, because they didn't know how long it took to do something other than to open up a book and try and find what someone else had written down, which may or may not be right depending upon who it was that wrote it, that's where I found they were lacking in knowledge, which is, you know, how long does it take to pour a footer or whatever you're talking about? How long does it take to nail up studs? How long does it take to weld, you know, joists in place? So these are things that, you know, I don't think we should be picking on one another for. We should be trying to teach this back and forth. And that's what's missing in some of the schools. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to make a comment about the tractor things. It's really hard to try and find good, solid information, even on a tractor. Especially the new ones. I mean, there's so you can look up any tractor you want and it's toast, it's trash. You can look up another video and they claim they're the greatest thing going. And even within a video, somebody will be complaining about one, and the guy will say, I have one, never had a problem. Another guy will say, I had one, never had a problem. You know, then the next thing you know, you're thinking to yourself, okay, does yours sit in the garage all the time, or do you actually use it, or what? And that's part of the thing that we never find out through some of the comments, you know, on the tractor things that I've been looking at. So, anyway, guys, just another subject to talk about. Have a good one.